Have you ever been in a room full of people, but felt completely alone? I mean, besides with close friends and family, how often do we form deep connections with the people we cross paths with? I'll tell you now, the answer is not enough, not even close, and we have no idea what we're missing. Until recently, I had no idea what a deep connection with a stranger felt like. And if I'm being honest, I just never thought about it. I'm a Generation Z teenager. You've probably seen us sitting together with our faces buried in our phones. We've grown up with screens all around us. I never realized I wasn't having meaningful connections, even with some of my closest friends. All that changed for me the summer before I started 7th grade. I went for a walk on something called the Camino de Santiago, a pilgrimage, where I learned what real connections are and how your life is so much richer when you realize what you've been missing. Pilgrims have been walking the Camino de Santiago since the Middle Ages. It's made up of a series of paths that end in the Spanish city of Santiago de Compostela, at the tomb of the Apostle St. James. Today, one of the most popular Camino paths is called the Camino Frances, which translates to the French way in English. This specific trail starts in southern France and heads west over to the Pyrenees Mountains and across northern Spain. Its total distance is around 485 miles, and it passes through major cities, small towns, and villages all along the way. This was the route I took when I went on my Camino journey. Pilgrims today walk the Camino for different reasons. Some may walk for spiritual reasons, others may do it for the challenge. But many use this journey to find their way after suffering perhaps an emotional or challenging event in their life. No matter what though, the Camino is a chance to reflect and find meaning and direction in life. I remember sitting on my couch at home when my dad started giving me what I would describe as the worst sales pitch ever. Here's what he said. You'll be walking 12 to 15 miles every day, sometimes in the rain with lots of hills. It's going to be hot, your feet are gonna hurt, and you're probably gonna get blisters. You can take anything you want though, as long as you carry it all day. Also, I don't know exactly where we're gonna sleep at night, but you're going to wanna bring earplugs, because apparently, tired pilgrims snore like freight trains. You're gonna have to talk to adults all the time. Oh, and you're gonna have to wash your underwear in the sink every night. Now, I don't know what gave it away, but this seemed absolutely horrible. It was like every teenager's worst nightmare. But something else sparked my interest. This unique opportunity may not come my way again. So I was left with two options. I could stay home for the summer and do what most teenage boys do, so binge watch Netflix and play video games. Or I could get out of my comfort zone and see what this crazy Camino was all about. My dad wanted me to know that it was going to be challenging, but that along the way, I might learn a lot about myself and see and experience some pretty cool things. I thought it was going to be a fun adventure, and it really was. But what made my Camino experience absolutely amazing and unforgettable were the incredible connections I had with the people I met there. I met people from all over the world and of all walks of life. For example, I met a man from Syria who had lost his son that was my age in their country's civil war. And through tears, he told me about their story. I got to share the trail with a woman who was singing Amazing Grace in Korean, and I surprised her when I started singing in English as we were walking together. Now, we couldn't understand each other's language, and we could not carry a tune, but we made each other smile. One of my favorite stories about connections happened on a day that my dad and I had been walking uphill in the rain for a couple of hours. As we were walking, we came across an Australian woman who was pushing a baby stroller up the rocky trail. To give her a break, I offered to help push the stroller to the top. In that way, she can hold an umbrella over her husband's head, who was pushing a second baby stroller up the trail. We learned that their names were Sally and Philip, and that they were on a mission to push their two small children over 485 miles across Spain. We walked with this family for the rest of the day, stayed in the same town that night, and even had dinner together. Our conversation stretched into the next day. I learned a ton about Australian history, but my favorite part was when Philip shared he was a beekeeper back home. I was so fascinated by this, and I had a million questions that he answered in one of the coolest accents. They even taught me some Australian slang, like the words bloke, Sheila, and good eye. And in turn, I taught him the proper use of the southern phrase y'all. We became a part of each other's Camino family, and we would come in and out of each other's lives all along the way. Like the many other pilgrims I connected with along my Camino, whenever I came into a town or a village and ran into them again, it was like reuniting with long-lost friends. The bonds we made were really deep, and we still keep in touch. There was another day on the Camino, after walking for a couple of hours in the sun, that my dad and I came across the ruins of a huge church. We stopped to rest and refill our water bottles, and as we stepped through these large gates, I realized we were standing in what used to be the inside of a large cathedral. The walls towered around us, but the roof was almost completely gone. I was then greeted by a smiling Italian woman named Monia. She was a volunteer that helped pilgrims that wanted to spend the night here. She explained to me that this place was called San Antone and was built in the Middle Ages as a church and hospital for pilgrims. Nowadays, most pilgrims either walk on by these ruins or probably decide not to stay at them because there's no electricity, there's no hot water, there's no Wi-Fi, and there's no air conditioning. But you see, none of that mattered to me because I was in awe that I had the chance to spend the night in the ruins of a 1,000-year-old church. Only 2 other pilgrims chose to stay for that night. There was a man from the Netherlands named Bryce and a young woman from Finland named Saga. Over about the next 12 hours, I got to know these people better than a lot of my friends back home. I just felt like I had known them for years. Saga taught me how to find and prepare an edible plant called stinging nettle. Then we all cooked supper, and we ate together by candlelight. After sharing stories around the dinner table, we gathered firewood and built a campfire right where the altar would have stood 900 years ago. With no modern-day distractions, we just opened up and shared from the heart. We talked for hours into the night, and we were just strangers from totally different backgrounds, yet we found real connections when our paths crossed on the Camino. To this day, it blows my mind how close you are to missing this entire experience, meeting Monia, Saga, and Bryce, had we chosen just to walk on by these ruins. I still keep in touch with all of them. Monia shares recipes with me, and I send her pictures of all of the dishes I cook. Bryce, he encourages me from halfway around the world. And Saga even came to stay with my family in the United States. While she was here, I got to take her trick-or-treating on Halloween for her very first time, which she said was one of the craziest things she's ever seen. When I got back home, I went through withdrawal. I began to realize that I had never taken the time, or in fact, really make an effort to connect with others in a deep, meaningful way, like I did on the Camino. Every single one of us are on our own Camino called life. We all start at birth and will all end in the same final destination. No 2 pilgrims have the same experience, even though we share the same stretch of trail, because we bring our own unique, individual perspectives. These differences are what make our stories better. A library filled with 1 million books that are all the same book is not worth going into. We should want our stories to be different, because that is what is interesting and fun. We are those library books, and I want my book to be filled with great chapters and unique characters. We are each at different points along our Camino of life. Sometimes we're going to share the trail for a while, but other times it's just a small moment. We can choose to walk in silence, or we can connect with the pilgrims we're lucky enough to share the trail with. These connections can be one of the most enriching and joyous things about our journey through life. To experience deep connections, we have to put down distractions and open up our hearts and our minds. At the end of our lives, I doubt we're going to look back and say, man, I wish I had watched more TV. No. What we'll say is that we're glad we made those memorable connections with others along our Camino of life. If we can all just take a moment and truly connect with those whose paths we cross, a whole wonderful world will open up to us. We have to stop chasing things that don't matter, like material things, or the opinions of people who don't really care about us. Life isn't about how many followers we have or how many likes we get. We tend to focus on things in the future at the expense of missing what is happening right here in front of us. If we keep moving the goal line, we can't appreciate the moments that are passing us by. This makes life go by way too fast. Life, it's about the journey. Make it the best Camino you can. Choose to deeply connect with the pilgrims you're lucky enough to share the trail with. I wish you all a good journey. A buen camino.